Hey guys, welcome to day 20 of 31 days of hypermobile workouts. My name is Eva, and today we are going to take a little walk. So we did this for the first time during week 1 because my Wi-Fi connection was horrible. But today I am honestly just in need of a little bit of low impact kind of endurance-based movement. So you are welcome to walk around your house, walk around your yard. I'm walking up and down my driveway right now. So I also want to spend this time to talk about a very interesting point that was recently raised on my social media. So some of you guys may have heard, I recently started a TikTok with you, and I posted a social media post that was talking about the benefits of walking on grass and why I think it's really beneficial for hypermobile people to spend some time walking on grass. And there were two primary reasons. The first was basically that grass is just way softer. Grass, soil, dirt, whatever, way softer than concrete and asphalt. And so the shock your joints go through is just way less. The shock absorption of your joints rather is much easier. And personally, I actually love walking on grass. I think it feels really good as compared to like concrete. The second point was that grass is inherently a little bit uneven, right? It's got bumps, it's got dips, it's got stuff like, it's just not as flat as walking on asphalt. And that can actually be really beneficial for hypermobile people especially, but really just anyone, because it's going to activate and kind of kick on muscles and stabilizers that don't really get a lot of activity when we're just walking straight forward on flat concrete all the time. So I posted this video and I got a comment that I found really interesting, and it was from this girl who's hypermobile, and she basically was like, oh, I can't walk on grass. Like every time I walk on grass, I just roll my ankles. And she asked something like, should I not do it? Or am I just not ready for it? And I thought that raised a really interesting point of, it is inherently a little more unstable to walk on grass or dirt. So should we not do it? And obviously, I think you guys already know my answer. The answer is no, I don't think that. I think that we should walk on grass. I think we should challenge our bodies to, challenge our bodies in slightly more unstable ways. Now, there's a caveat to that. We need to find ways to make it safe, because obviously I don't want you all walking outside right now in grass when your ankles are going to roll left and right. Like, that's not going to be helpful for you, right? But I do think the cool thing about modern day life is that, there's so many ways to make things accessible. And so my thought process with this one person who was in the comments was like, okay, well, maybe you can't walk on grass without a walking aid right now. I know people use those, like, they almost look like ski poles, but they're like hiking or, like hiking walking aids. You see like people use them in the park sometimes or in the woods. Maybe when you're walking on grass, you're just using those for support, or some sort of cane or staff that gives you a little bit more stability while you're building up your ankle stabilizers. Or another option, maybe you just take a couple of steps on grass to start. Maybe you're walking along the sidewalk and you're like, there's a patch of grass. Let me try 4 or 5 steps on the grass, and then you get back on the concrete. And the reason I say this is because, I've worked with a lot of people who have said things like, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to do this again. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to go bike riding again. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to go jogging again. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to have sex without pain again. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to lift up my kids without throwing out my back again. I have heard dozens and dozens of things like that. I don't think, my personal one was, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to dance again. For those of you who know my background, it was very deeply rooted in dance. And I went through a long phase where I was like, I'm never going to be able to do this again. And What I have learned over working with dozens and dozens of people over years and years and hearing things like that is it's not really true. I also have a very glass half full mentality when it comes to this type of stuff, but I genuinely believe that there is virtually nothing that a hypermobile body is not going to be able to do, but it might take longer. You might need more creative solutions. You might need to work harder or be more consistent than people who are not hypermobile. There are caveats to that. I'm not saying it's easy, but I am just saying it's doable. So for this gal who's in my comments saying, oh, I just don't want to walk on grass because it feels really unstable, or I always roll my ankles. If you never want to walk on grass, then that's fine. Don't worry about it. You don't have to walk on grass. We live in a very urbanized society, so most people can get away with it. But if you want to walk on grass, we just hit 2 creative solutions. Walking aids are super, super helpful. I used a cane for a time when I was walking on concrete, not because of my ankles, but because of my hips. Or just starting really small. And I'll give you a personal example here beyond dance, something that I actually want to accomplish. And this is the first time I'm saying it online. The only other person who knows this is my husband. But I want to start running again. I say again, I've never really run, I'm not a runner, but I want to start running. I want to, not sprint, but just jog occasionally. I want to work on my cardiovascular endurance, and I just want to see if I can do it. And I have learned a lot about my body in the last 2-3 years. I have learned a lot about how to train my body effectively. I've learned a lot about what it needs in terms of strength, in terms of mobility, in terms of recovery. I've spent a lot of time figuring this stuff out. And I'm feeling kind of confident in it. So what am I going to do? What's my plan to try and start running? Something that I, at one point, thought I was never going to be able to do. I'm going to start running 5 steps. And that's it. My first day, I'm going to jog for 5 steps. And that is all. And then I am going to probably walk or recover some. And then the next day I'm going to see how I feel. And like I said, I've spent a long time kind of tuning into my body and figuring out if I feel a certain way, usually means I need a certain thing. It might be recovery, it might be stabilization. So I'm going to run those 5 steps and then I'm going to see how I feel the next day. And if I feel good, I am going to try to run 10 steps. And I am just going to kind of run through that cycle, pun totally intended, and just see how I feel and see how it goes. And I will adjust along the way and, hopefully feel all right. I'm also someone who, I actually do a lot of my own hypermobile friendly workouts on this channel. They really help kind of keep me pulled together, but I also do a lot of other recovery modalities that help keep me in place. So, I do acupuncture with some regularity. I do chiropractic with a lot of regularity. And between all of these different modalities, I think that I will be able to build my endurance to run again. And some people start their first day of running and they go, okay, I'm only going to run 5 blocks, or I'm only going to run 3 blocks or whatever, or I'm only going to run 15 minutes. I'm going to run 5 steps and then I'm going to stop and then I'm going to run 5 the next day or whatever it looks like. But that's where it starts. So I've kind of gone off on a lot of tangent. We started with walking on grass. We ended up running in 5 steps. But my point is that it might not happen in the time frame that you hope it's happening, whatever that might be. It might be a physical goal, it might be just feeling better, but I really am a firm believer that with the right resources and a creative mind, hypermobile people can accomplish a lot. Like, our bendy bodies are, you know, like, they're very, very livable and doable. And I say that as someone who has been in horrific amounts of pain. I've, you know, say that as someone who still goes through flares, you know, but glass half full, I suppose, is just where I'm at with it. So I hope this was at least a little bit helpful to you. Walk on grass, don't walk on grass. If you are going to walk on grass, keep yourself safe. And like this, subscribe to this, comment on the things. I would love to hear about the things that you want to accomplish. It's pretty inspiring. So anywho, I'm going to log off now. I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a lovely evening. Talk to you later. Bye.